Ciao, homie!
Britain's Strongest Man comes to us on October 23rd at Sheffield Arena in England. So, what is Britain's Strongest Man? Well, if you've been following the Giants Live World Tour this year in 2021, the strongman legends of today will be competing once again for the title of Britain's Strongest Man, currently held by Adam Bishop, the longest reigning since Jimmy Marcoux in 2008. So, if we go down here, let's have a look at a little bit of the history of Britain's Strongest Man before we get into predictions. So, Sheffield Arena was the last one, Britain's Strongest Man, the last open show in the UK to happen before the world shut down. So, it's infamous in that respect, and we're all very excited to see it coming back once again. So Adam Bishop will have reigned for, it says 18 months by September. We are now in October, so I guess that's 19 months now. And again, the longest uncontested Britain's Strongest Man's title since Jimmy Marcoux in 2008. We are going to see both Stoltman brothers, and as I mentioned in my Rogue Invitational videos, they're competing both there and here. Britain's happens 1 week earlier, and I know they've both made sort of a big deal about saying how important the Britain's Strongest Man title is to them. So we'll see what they have left for the Rogue, but I expect their best here at Britain's. So you're going to have World's Strongest Man Tom Stoltman, Europe's Strongest Man Luke Stoltman, and current reigning Britain's Strongest Man Adam Bishop all on the same show. So it's going to be pretty awesome to watch, in addition to some of the newcomers in the sport. We go here and click on Britain's Strongest Man Athlete Lineup Reveal on the Giants Live website. Interestingly enough, the thumbnail says Britain's Strongest Man, the caption says Europe's Strongest Man, but if you scroll below, you see that they are talking, in fact, about Britain's Strongest Man on October 23rd, 2021 at Sheffield Arena. So they talk about world records, thrilling finishes. They even talk about 7 of the 11 athletes, it's actually 10 now, having competed at World's Strongest Man before. So there's going to be an incredibly strong lineup here, which we'll go into in a moment. We're kind of transitioning from this idea of World's Strongest Brothers to one of them being World's Strongest Man and one of them being Europe's Strongest Man now. So they are, in their own right, incredibly accomplished, each of them. And they talk about here somewhere where if Tom Stoltman were to hold the World's Strongest Man title and Britain's Strongest Man title at the same time, that hasn't been done since Eddie Hall did it in 2017. So that'll be really interesting to see. We'll go through my predictions in a moment and we'll see what kind of chances we think Tom Stoltman has here. So that being said, let's look at what the events are for 2021 Giants Live Britain's Strongest Man. So they're going to start off the Giants Live Britain's Strongest Man 2021 with a giant dumbbell medley. And if you listen to Big Law's official, Big Law's and Medium Liz talked about these dumbbells being really large in size and kind of unwieldy, so they're difficult to prepare for, even for the competitors who have giant dumbbells in their gyms. They're going to be 5 dumbbells, starting off at 80 kilograms and working their way up to 120 kilograms. So that would be 200 and, let's see, 120 would be 264 pounds. That's a big dumbbell. So going to be interesting to see there. I think there are going to be guys that don't finish the series, so we'll see how that all pans out. There are overhead pressers like Graham Hicks, for example, who does incredibly on log, but not well on dumbbell press in his career. And, that could have been caused by a variety of parameters, injuries, and whatnot, but we have to predict based on what we've seen in the past. Then the next event will be the Super Yoke, and as Laws and Liz, I have to give them full credit and thanks for what type of event this is, or else I would have not known otherwise, but they've said it's the 2 motorcycle one, so a motorcycle on each side, as opposed to what we saw in 2020 World's Strongest Man, where it was 3 of them, and you heard me complain a bit about it being unbalanced and whatnot. So motorcycle on each side. Laz talked about this being on the light side, so it'd be a speed event. He said it's something Graham Hicks, when fully healthy, has done in under 9 seconds before, so that'll be incredible to watch. I'm assuming that Giants Live will be putting Britain's Strongest Man on their Facebook page for a $4.99 pay-per-view buy like they have with every other show this year, so looking forward to purchasing that, and I encourage you to do the same. Their shows are amazing. We then move on to a giant axle deadlift. So that's going to be an axle deadlift for reps, 350 kilograms, 4 reps, same as what we saw on Europe's Strongest Man. So for anybody who competed there, we can maybe draw a parallel, kind of determine who's at peak performance right now, who may not be at peak performance right now, and determine who can handle this unwieldy implement the best. So, of course, the axle, a thicker bar than a traditional bar. I'm assuming they're going to be allowed straps, potentially figure 8 straps as well, and we'll see how that all pans out with the axle bar deadlift. If I remember correctly, one of the Giants live shows this year saw Rauno Heinla beat that record with 9 reps. So it'll be interesting to see how close everybody can get during Britain's Strongest Man. Moving on over to the next event, we have a loading medley. And when you hear a loading medley and you know Tom Stoltman's in the competition, he almost has that locked up. Tom Stoltman, incredible with those types of events. If you're loading up onto a higher platform, his height helps. He's very fast for his size. So we'll see how that all pans out. Laz was thinking it might be a duck walk into a barrel carry, into a tire carry. I think Liz kind of held him back and said duck walk. I don't know about that. So we'll see. I think that we're not sure confirmation of what those particular implements will be on the loading, but we'll see what happens. If you remember in 2020 World's Strongest Man, they had the monster truck parts. So, Giants Live always being inventive and creative with these types of loading races. So we'll see what they put together this time. But, barrel, sack, those are kind of common things. Tire, a little less common. We'll see what they come up with. And then, of course, they're going to finish off with the Castle Stones, the set of Atlas stones that they've used throughout the Giants Live World Tour this year in 2021. They are quote-unquote known as the lighter set of stones. So for the competitors that do better with the lighter set of stones, I've seen Adam Bishop do fairly well a couple of times this year with those. That may favor them. So those are your events for Britain's Strongest Man 2021. They are, again, the Giant Dumbbell Medley, the Super Yoke with the motorcycles, the Giant Axle Deadlift for reps, loading medley of some sort, and ending up with the Castle Stones. Let's have a look at our competitor lineup. And at this time, I'd like to let you know that this video is being sponsored by our good friends at Garage Gym Life Media. If you like some of the analysis I've done on domestic contests in the past and want to know some more about the fine folks who are putting together and streaming some of those contests, I'm going to let John Greaves III, the founder of Garage Gym Life Media, tell you a little more about it.
I wanted to be a part of Static Monster since I first heard about it. In 2020, you had 985 competitors from 19 countries. The idea of people from all around the world competing in the axle deadlift and the log clean press all at the same time on the same day is something that's just mind-blowing. Normally, you'd have to fly overseas and then you only compete against the people who are also able to fly to that same location. It's a blessing for us to be able to not only live stream this event, but also be a part of bringing it to somewhere close to us here in the Southeast. So this is not only an amazing opportunity for the average competitor to be able to see where they stack up against the top athletes in the sport of strongman, but it's also a rare situation where you are literally competing head to head. And I'm just really blessed for our live stream company to be a part in some small way of getting the story of these amazing athletes out there who are doing a historic thing.
The Britain's Strongest Man 2021 competitor lineup is incredibly stacked, and we're going to be looking forward to seeing all of these gentlemen compete. Starting off, we have the perennial ageless wonder, Mark Felix, who is, in fact, 6 times podium finisher at Britain's Strongest Man over his long and illustrious career. Mark Felix continues to go on and show his worth and his value in deadlift for reps, in Hercules hold, where he is untouchable for the most part, and in various events like that. So it's amazing and inspirational to see Mark Felix continue to be able to compete at a high level with all of these younger competitors, other legends, up-and-comers, and show that age is just a number, an inspiration to us all. We then have Shane Flowers, who I have not seen compete before, but he is the reigning England strongest man. So it'll be interesting to see Shane on the big stage and see what he can offer in terms of these events and in terms of competing with the likes of current world's strongest man Tom Stoltman, for example, and Europe's strongest man Luke Stoltman, who are more established and perennial competitors at this level. We'll see in a moment when we look at my predictions on the research I was able to dig up on Shane Flowers where I think he will place. We then have Powell Dwyer, the ever powerful and entertaining Powell Dwyer. He always gives a great show and a great show of strength as well. So Powell Dwyer is the reigning Ireland strongest man. Like I say, this competitor lineup is incredibly stacked. If you look at the accolades they all have, like there's no sort of weak point here anywhere. And then, of course, the aforementioned Albatross, the reigning 2021 World's Strongest Man, Tom Stoltman, descends on Sheffield Arena once again. He is the reigning World's Strongest Man, and we'll see if he can back up the claims that he's made that this is the show he's been planning for, this is where his efforts are all going, and see if he's able to execute with excellence like Bret the Hitman Hart during this show. Then his brother Luke Stoltman, who's been having an incredible year, really on the come up, reigning Europe's strongest man. Luke Stoltman with multiple Giants Live wins this year, to the point where I want to make a video comparing his year to Alexei Novikov's year in terms of who's had the better year. So let me know in the comments below if you want to see that video. Then we have Andy Black, who is reigning Scotland's strongest man, and Andy Black did some damage on Atlas Stones last time we saw him compete. Andy's really putting himself among the best in the world. I know that on some recent Giants Live competitions, he was a little nervous, said, I just want to make sure I can kind of hold my own with these guys, and he's doing that and then some. Desmond Gahan was second at Wales' strongest man, and he will be competing as well. Kind of a little bit more of a newcomer like Shane Flowers in terms of the big stage. So we'll see where we feel like he will place based on his competition research from the past. Then we have Paul Smith, who was second at UK's strongest man. UK's puts on a good show for the men and the women, so if you haven't checked those out, go find them on YouTube. Definitely well worth the watch, and we'll see what Paul Smith is able to contribute to Britain's strongest man and where we think he'll finish. You then have the reigning Britain's strongest man, and for many people, the favorite here, Adam Bishop, has been reigning now for, if my calculations are correct, 19 months. We'll see if he can retain that. Adam was getting a little bit of exhaustion and fatigue, had some fainting on one of the Giants Live shows. He's just competed so much this year. I think he said he has 9 shows this year in one of his interviews. And so we'll see if he's fully recovered. I hope he is. And that way, you know, he can do his best to retain his title of Britain's strongest man for 2021. And then finally, we have Graham Hicks, also going through some injuries recently. We saw him in the Shaw Classic. I really hope Graham is fully back to form as well. He is 2019 Britain's strongest man and otherworldly presser. So we'll see what Graham Hicks is able to contribute. So those are the competitors in the lineup for the Britain's Strongest Man Giants Live 2021. Let's have a look at the Dumbbell Predictions. First, I'd like to say that the main reason why my predictions are even up for legitimate critique is because I am one of the very few YouTubers that I've ever seen show this level of work and detail and research to be transparent with you on the dozens and maybe even hundreds of hours of research that I put into this. That being said, I have wonderful subscribers and viewers with knowledgeable opinions, but they differ from each other, and there's probably a dozen different opinions out there, so I can't possibly make amendments and modifications based on all of those. That being said, however, when one of the actual athletes comes through with a legitimate idea based on all of the sacrifice and hard work and dedication that they've put through for many, many years, and the idea makes sense to make my algorithm better, I'm going to take that as a knowledgeable suggestion and incorporate it. So Graham Hicks, thank you for jumping into my comments and suggesting that for Britain's Strongest Man, I take all of the research that I've done and narrow it down to just competitions that were against other British competitors. So what I've done is I've changed my algorithm or filtered it down to show only Britons and UKs. so we can have a good comparison and good predictions for Britain's Strongest Man 2021, because after all, that's what the show is. It's against other Brits. So it was a great idea, and I'm glad I incorporated that. The other thing that Graham mentioned was I had judged him on dumbbell press in one show, namely the Shaw Classic, where he was injured and zeroed it. So I went back and all through Graham's career and took not just the dumbbell press, but all of these events, and took how he did through his whole career. And then, of course, to be fair, I have to do that for all the guys. So I did that for every competitor. It serves some of them better and some of them worse, but at least fair is fair now. We're not looking at just last 10 shows anymore. And in these revised predictions, you will see how they've done throughout all of their careers. One caveat, I will admit, I didn't do Mark Felix's whole career. I did probably 20 of his shows because it's so long. I will eventually, but I want to be upfront about that. I have a lot of his shows, but not all of them. But everybody else, I did their whole careers. Now, as you can see here in my Block Strongest algorithm, it's filtered down now. So you have Adam Bishop, for example, and all of the events that will happen in 2021 Britain's Strongest Man and how he did in the past. And then you'll have a strength rating, and again, that's calculated by points earned out of possible points for that particular event at that show. So then you have Adam's Super Yoke in 2017, Britain's Strongest Man, 2018 Britain's Strongest Man. I have his loading race in 3 different Britons. I have his deadlift for reps in 5 different Britain's Strongest Men. So you can see how they all, how he did in each show, and then the bold is the aggregate of all of them. So, for example, his deadlift for reps, if you take these 5 shows combined, he's a 93.29 out of a possible 100. An incredible, incredible score. And then I added in car walk because some guys like Andy Black, for example, didn't have a yoke in a big show, so I had to take the closest event to that I could. And of course, pivot tables in Excel add that for everybody, so you'll see it everywhere. Then you have your Atlas stones for time for Adam Bishop. Those of you who saw my original video will immediately notice this value of 80.14 being far better than what I had for him first time around, so we'll see how the predictions pan out. And then we have Graham Hicks here. So his super yoke for time is 84.85 over these Britain's and UK's Strongest Men competitions that I tracked for him. And then you'll see there's one from 2013. Like I went back far. I went all the way back for everything that was on Strongman Archives this time around for all of these guys. His loading race time, 76.92. His dumbbell press for reps, which I originally had as a 0 from the Shaw Classic, giving him 2 points, I think is what I had given him, is now a very high 73.08. So the reason you only see this Britain's Strongest Man show, 2 reasons. One is because, as I said, we're comparing only to other British shows now. And 2, because, as Graham said, he was injured. So it was unfair to judge him by a score he got while injured at a show. So I threw out the Shaw Classic from my research for him. But to be fair, I had to throw it out for all his events, the ones he did well in and not so well in, just, to kind of make the research fair and square. But again, that gives him a great score in dumbbell for reps now, very different from what you saw in my original video. So again, thanks, Graham, for that suggestion. Really worked out well here, and I think it is a more fair approach. His deadlift for reps, we all know, is great, 76.84. And then you have Atlas stones for time, 65.74. Again, just taking the aggregate of Britain's and UK's competitions only. Tom Stoltman has super yoke at 42.66, loading race at 94.87, so virtually unbeatable there. You see several hundreds in here. Dumbbell press for reps. If you count only the UK's, as we're doing here in Britain's, his score is actually higher than if you count every time he's done it. So he benefits from being against these competitors in particular on dumbbell press for reps. Deadlift for reps, Tom's 56.12. Carry I had to throw in for folks that didn't have loading race. They can be similar in some respects, so I added that in. Atlas stones for Tom, again, virtually unbeatable there, 96.97 there if you count 3 different Britain's Strongest Man. Then you have Shane Flowers and Desmond Gann. So what I did for them is I took the few pieces of research that I had for them, and since this is kind of like their first step up to this level of competition, I cut it in half. So if Shane, for example, shows an 80 percentile on deadlift, I gave him 40 because he didn't do it against this grouping of competitors. And same thing for Desmond when we get there. Mark Felix was 83.83 for super yoke at the 1 Britain's that I had for him. Loading race, 49.68. And again, these are out of 100 ratings. Dumbbell press for reps, not Mark's forte, so he had a 0 at an Arnold UK. Deadlift for reps for Mark, that is a strong point for him, so he's 81.57 there. I did have to kind of take into account, though, that at a very recent show, the 2021 Arnold UK, he did take like a severe dip down from his career kind of average in this event. So what I did was I averaged these 91, 92, 92 together to get whatever that is, like 92.0 and average 92.0 with 50. And then I got his overall rating there, just to kind of take into account that maybe the trending isn't necessarily static anymore. Desmond, again, same idea as I did for Shane Flowers. So you take these numbers and then I half them when I do my actual predictions, just to take into account that this is kind of a big step up into a new class of competition. Then you have Andy Black, who zeroed at the 2021 Arnold's UK for dumbbell press for reps, and I don't believe that was injury-based. If it is, Andy, jump into my comments, let me know, and I will redo this for you. Happy to be, not happy to be, it's a responsibility to be fair to the athletes, for sure. Deadlift for reps is a 40 rating for Andy. Carry medley I put in for him because I didn't have loading race, and he's 62.5 there. And Atlas Stones, an incredible 93.75 for Andy Black. He performed at 2 different UKs very, very well in Atlas Stones. Then we have Powell Dwyer, who for Super Yoke, he rates 34.09. Loading race, 42.79. Dumbbell press for reps, 64.38. That's a good score. Deadlift for reps, you had a couple Britons and a couple UKs here for Pa, and he is at 41.37 there. He has carry medley, and he's 75 there, so a very good score there. But he did have loading race, so I took that one. I took that score for him. And Atlas Stone's a very, very good score for Powell Dwyer, 79.58. Really only a lower score back in 2017. The rest of them very, very good. Then we have Luke Stoltman, who on Super Yoke is 40.17. I took out, I thought I gave him a little more credit for this, so I'm pretty sure I took out this one from way, way back in 2013, so we'll see in my predictions, but I believe I took that one out because it's so long ago. Loading race for time, he is 82.56, so an incredible, incredible score there. So based on the discussion about Graham Hicks's one dumbbell where he was injured, I didn't think it was fair to give Luke Stoltman a 0 on dumbbell based on something that happened so long ago in 2014, and who knows if he was injured then or not. And on top of that, it's not indicative of his dumbbell performance in other shows, so I took scores from other places for him. Deadlift for reps, he is 36.42, not one of his stronger events, and as you can see, I have a variety of different Britons that I took as a comparison there. And Atlas Stones for Luke Stoltman is 67.21, so that is a very good score. Anything in the 60s and above is a very good score. And then you have Paul Smith. So Paul Smith Super Yoke, 48.40. His loading race in 3 Britons and 1 UKs, 54.09. His dumbbell press, I have for reps and for time here because they're kind of both a little bit relevant. So he did 62.5 on dumbbell press for time and dumbbell press for reps 37.5. So had to take kind of both of those into consideration. His deadlift for reps, 35.34, coming from an amalgamation of 4 different Britain's Strongest Men's. And then Atlas Stones for Paul Smith is 41.6. So again, 4 Britain's Strongest Man competitions and 1 UK's. So that's how all the research and calculations panned out for everybody. Now let's do a ranking of all those numbers to see where we think everyone will place in my revised Britain's Strongest Man 2021 predictions. Starting off with the dumbbell press, Mark Felix, as we said, the research showed a 0 rating for him, 1 point to Mark Felix. Moving on up, I think Andy Black will come away with 2 points in the dumbbell press. Then we have Desmond Gann, who I gave 31.25. So again, if you take a look, I took his performance that I found and cut it in half to account for the fact that kind of this is a big step up for him. 3 points to Desmond on dumbbell. 4 points, I think, goes to Shane Flowers for the same sort of reasoning. I think he edges out Desmond here. 5 points will go to Paul Smith with a 50 rating out of 100 in dumbbell. Luke Stoltman, I think, comes away with 6 points in the dumbbell, 58.08 rating for him. And as we saw Adam Bishop with a 60.9 rating, I think he comes away with 7 points in the dumbbell. 8 points will go to Powell Dwyer, 64.38 rating for him, and now we're getting into the really good scores. Tom Stoltman with a 68.75 rating. Again, as I mentioned, benefits from this being a British-only show. If you take his whole career, his dumbbell rating isn't as high. But here, 9 points for Tom. And that leaves the man who brought to my attention the way to do this more precisely and more accurately, and it worked out for sure. Graham Hicks, 10 points, 73.08 is his new percentage when we look at comparison against other Brits and throwing away a show where he was obviously injured. So those are the predictions for the Britain's Strongest Man 2021 Dumbbell Medley. Let's have a look at the Yoke. Starting off with 1 point, I think that'll go to Shane Flowers. We move up. I think Desmond Gann comes away with 2 points on the Super Yoke. 3 points, I think, will go to Andy Black with a rating of 30 out of 100. Powell Dwyer rates a little bit above that at 34.09 for his British competitions. 4 points will go to Pa. I think 5 points go to Luke Stoltman, so he rates, as we said when we looked at the research, 40.17. Tom Stoltman rates 42.66 in his British competition, so 6 points go to Tom. 7 will go to Paul Smith with 48.4 points and 48.4 rating. And we're getting to the higher points, and still the research is not that high. So typically 7 points would be in the 60s. So let's see. And there we go. Giant jump up to Mark Felix, 70.83. I'm going to give him 8 points here. He's the ageless wonder. He's got to start slowing down sometime. So maybe I'm overrating him here, but we'll see what happens. Adam Bishop, 79.37 out of a possible 100 rating in his career in Super Yoke in British competitions. 9 points will go to him. And amazingly enough, another win, 10 points for Graham Hicks here. I think I always had him winning this originally as well, so no change. But 84.85 is a really, really high percentage over career of British competitions for Super Yoke. So that's how I feel the Super Yoke will shake out at Britain's Strongest Man 2021. Let's have a look at the deadlift for reps. Starting off with Desmond Gann on the bottom of the list with 1 point, 31.25. Paul Smith will come away with 2 points on deadlift for reps, 35.34. Luke Stoltman a little bit better with 36.42 percentage points over his British competition career, 3 points for him. And then I have sort of a tie with Shane Flowers and Andy Black, 5 points apiece at a 40 rating. Moving on up the list, I think Powell Dwyer comes in next with 6 points. He is rated 41.37 out of 100 in deadlift for reps over his career in British competitions. And then we have a significant jump up to Tom Stoltman's rating of 56.12. 7 points will go to Tom Stoltman. 8 points to Mark Felix, 71.05. That's a giant jump up from Tom's rating. And then I have 9 points going to Graham Hicks. He has rated 76.84 over his career in British competitions in deadlift for reps. So I think he's only outdone by Adam Bishop here. And some people in the audience would say it's the other way around, and they think Graham will actually take this. But second place to Graham Hicks, first place to Adam Bishop with a rating of 93.29 percentage points and an unbelievable rating over his British competitions in deadlift for reps. 10 points for Adam Bishop. So that's how I feel the deadlift for reps will shake out at Britain's Strongest Man 2021. Let's have a look at the loading race. Starting off, I think Desmond Gann is coming in with 1 point. 2 points will go to Shane Flowers with 28.5 as his rating. I think 3 points go to Powell Dwyer. He rates 42.79 percentage points out of a possible 100 over his career in loading medleys. 4 points will go to Mark Felix, 49.68 percentage points for him. Paul Smith is rated 54.09 over his career. I think he comes away with 5 points in this loading medley. 6 points will go to Andy Black. He's rated 62.5 over his career in loading medleys, and I expect him to do well here, 6 points. 7 points, I think, go to Graham Hicks, who has done even better. Again, a substantial jump up to 76.92 out of a possible 100 percentage points in Graham's career in British competitions, or UK's Strongest Man competitions in loading medleys. 7 points to Graham Hicks. 8 points will go to Luke Stoltman, who averages 82.56 percentage points. And we have 2 better. 9 points going to Adam Bishop, who has rated 87.18 percentage points in loading medleys over his career. And that leaves one winner of this event, and that is Tom Stoltman, an incredible 94.87 percentage points in loading medleys in his career in British or UK Strongest Man competitions. 10 points to Tom Stoltman. This score is actually extremely close to his Atlas Stone career score, so we'll see how that looks in a moment. But that's how the loading medley will shake out at Britain's Strongest Man 2021. Let's have a look at the aforementioned Castle Stones. Starting off, Paul Smith will come away with 1 point with a rating of 41.6. That's not a bad rating for a last place finish, so we do have some strong ratings coming up. Desmond Gann comes away with 2 points, 41.67 is his career rating. Then Shane Flowers, who I've rated at 50, 3 points there. And again, I think he was actually 100. He was, but, making a step up here, so we had to account for that. 4 points will go to Graham Hicks. Graham is 65.74 percentage points over his career in Castle Stones in British and UK's competitions. Again, 4 points doesn't sound like a lot, but 65.74 is really, really good. So just some very strong scores in Stones. He's actually just barely edged out by Mark Felix, 65.87 for Mark, and that can go either way. Again, Graham definitely closer to the middle of his career, the prime, than Mark is, although the ageless wonder, who knows how much longer he'll go. Luke Stoltman, 73.99 percentage points. That's his rating on Atlas Stones in British and UK's competitions over his career. 6 points will go to Luke Stoltman. I'm giving 7 points to Powell Dwyer, so he is at 79.58 percentage points over his career in this event. I think 8 points go to Adam Bishop, so Adam is over 80%, so 80.14% in Britain's and UK competitions Atlas Stones. So that takes away some of the ones from some of the other shows that may be heavier sets, but an incredible score here, 8 points for him. Research shows Andy Black does 93.75% of points possible in his Atlas Stones in British competitions, so 9 points for him, and I think he's only done British competitions, but 9 points for him. And he had an incredible run at his most recent competition, so looking forward to Andy throwing those things up like they're toys. And speaking of throwing them up like they're toys, you have the indomitable, is that a word? Tom Stoltman, 96.97. Ratings don't get much higher than that. You'll very, very rarely see a rating like that on any event for any guy. 10 points to Tom Stoltman for the Castle Stones. So that's how Castle Stones will shake out at Britain's Strongest Man 2021. Let's see how all that wraps up into the overall standings. So we've gone through all the other videos that talk about the breakdown event by event and show you all of my work and all of my research and all of my breakdown by competitor, by event, by only British and UK's competitions to come up with these ratings, these strength ratings out of a possible 100. And that's how I came up with these numbers. So before you go in the comments and say, I don't know how you came up with this, watch the videos. The whole point of them was to show you how I came up with this. You may disagree, which is fine, and I may be wrong, which is fine, but let's not question how I came up with it, because I'm been pretty verbose about that in my other videos. So, starting off, Desmond Gann will come in 10th place with 9 total points. That breaks down into 3 points on the Dumbbell Medley, 2 points on the Super Yoke, 1 on Deadlift for reps, 1 on the Loading Medley, and 2 on the Castle Stones. Moving on up, I have Shane Flowers in 9th place. Shane Flowers will get 4 points in the Dumbbell Medley, 1 in the Super Yoke, 5 in the Deadlift for reps, 2 in the Loading Medley, 3 in the Castle Stones. 8th place goes to Paul Smith, so Paul will come away with 20 total points, comprised of 5 in the Dumbbell Medley, 7 in Super Yoke, 2 in Deadlift for reps, 5 in Loading Medley, and 1 in Castle Stones. 7th place will go to Andy Black, so Andy Black, who I originally had 9th, I believe, is now 7th place, which may make some of you happy in the audience. I know that some of you said that I had him too low, which turns out I did. 25 points for Andy Black. I think he gets 2 points on Dumbbell Medley, 3 on Super Yoke, 5 on Deadlift for reps, 6 on Loading Medley, 9 on Castle Stones. Mark Felix will come in 6th place with a total of 26 points, edging out Andy by 1 point. So he gets 1 point on Dumbbell Medley, 8 on Super Yoke, 8 on Deadlift for reps, 4 on Loading Medley, and 5 on Castle Stones. 4th place goes to Luke Stoltman, and there is no 5th, you say? That's because there is a tie. Luke Stoltman and Powell Dwyer have tied for 4th place, so they both come away with 28 total points. Luke's breakdown is 6 points for Dumbbell Medley, 5 for Super Yoke, 3 for Deadlift for reps, 8 on the Loading Medley, and 6 on Castle Stones. Powell Dwyer, on the other hand, does a little better on Dumbbell Medley, 8 points for him, 4 on Super Yoke, 6 on Deadlift for reps, 3 on Loading Medley, and 7 on the Castle Stones. So then we have our podium, which you can figure out who they are based on process of elimination. But what's the order? Well, third place, I think, goes to Graham Hicks, who I originally had, I believe it was 7th, and that's what caused all the uproar. So redoing the numbers, comparing just British and UK's competitions, Graham stacks up incredibly well head-to-head with these guys. And if we take away the one contest where he was injured with the dumbbell and give him his other remaining kind of dumbbell score, it changes things dramatically. I think his loading even went up as well here too. So as I said, I took full careers for all of these guys except for Mark, where I did as much of it as I could get to. It is so long. But Graham Hicks, third place with 40 points, a considerable jump up from fourth place there in total points. Have him winning the dumbbell medley and the super yoke, second in the deadlift for reps with 9 points, 7 points on the loading medley, and 4 on the castle stone. So that's how he gets his 40 points. Second place will go to Tom, the Albatross Stoltman. So he descends on Sheffield for Britain's Strongest Man, but doesn't come away with the win here. 42 points for Tom. That is 9 points on dumbbell medley for second place, 6 points on super yoke, 7 on deadlift for reps, and then I think he wins both the loading medley and the castle stones. And that leaves us with our champion and, shall I say, returning champion, Adam Bishop, who wins by 1 point. So 43 points for Adam Bishop, and that is comprised of 7 points on dumbbell medley, 9 on the super yoke, 10 on the deadlift for reps, 9 on the loading medley, and 8 on the castle stones. And funny enough, both Graham Hicks and Tom Stoltman have more event wins in my predictions than Adam, but he seems to make it up on some of the other events. So those are my overall standings and podium predictions for Britain's Strongest Man 2021. Again, your winner, your returning winner, Adam Bishop. Second place, Tom Stoltman. And third place, to round out the podium, Graham Hicks. Thanks again for joining me on my blog, Strongest Man. I hope you enjoyed these predictions and found them a little bit more precise now that I've reworked the algorithm. Any of you athletes out there, strongman athletes, strong women athletes who have suggestions based on your vast experience on how I could make my predictions better, please feel free to reach out and let me know. And if they make sense, I'll fold them in. Thanks again, Graham, for the suggestion, and hopefully we talk again sometime soon. Thanks, everybody. Ciao, homie.